Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all the benevolent lineage masters, the Dharma infinitely profound and subtle as rarely encountered even in millennials. Now that we're able to hear, study, and follow it, may we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning in order to liberate all sentient beings. Let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. Today, we will continue explaining homage and offerings to the 16 elders. We have already covered several verses. Now we continue to study their life stories. While listening to the teachings, you should know how these arhats attended arhathood under the guidance of the Buddha. After attending arhathood, since they were all such important disciples of the Buddha requested them to remain in this world to preserve and protect the Dharma. To this end, they continually grant their blessings, so that all great masters and practitioners who truly protect and maintain the Dharma will remain long in this world. That's the extraordinary quality that they have. As you notice, when teaching this prayer, I adopted the traditional approach of teaching, which is to share stories of the arhats with you exactly as they are recorded in the sutras. People who have faith in the Dharma will accept these stories. However, those who know nothing about Buddhism may think they are imaginary tales and find those miraculous happenings difficult to believe. This is understandable. It's similar to how people today find it very difficult to understand a specialized field of scientific knowledge that they have no knowledge about. Imagine a group of people who know absolutely nothing about physics. If a physicist were to lecture them about their research and findings in the fields of quantum mechanics, they would believe they're talking imaginary tales and lose interest very quickly. But it's very important to be open-minded. When you don't know much about a teaching or don't believe it, you should not just deny it too quickly. It would be foolish to deny something without sufficient reasoning. For certain texts, I'm giving traditional style teaching that closely follow the Buddhist scriptures. I also try to present the Dharma in a more modern and accessible way, especially when I'm teaching lectures at universities. I try my best to tailor my teachings to the mentality of modern people. Most of them lead very busy lives. They have neither the time nor the interest to practice the Dharma in a very serious way. So when I give talks to such people, I try my best to align what I say with their actual conditions. I use words easily understood by them to render Buddhism doctrines. So, if you are interested, my University talks are very good to listen to. Most Han Chinese are well educated, but in Tibetan regions, except for monastics and scholars, the majority of people are illiterate in Tibetan. Since they don't even have the middle school literacy, it would be very difficult to explain Buddhist concepts to them. Comparatively speaking, most Han Chinese Buddhists and non-Buddhists alike have received a very good education. Even if they're not highly educated, they still have no problem in reading a book and understanding what it says. Based on their educational level and mentality, I deliver the Dharma to them in a way they can accept and understand. While educated people like university students and professors tend to have a lot of conceptual thoughts and afflictive emotions. Taking into account their limited capacities and inclinations, I try to combine all the knowledge that I have accumulated over the years with the priceless peace instructions that I received from my masters, as well as teachings of sutras and great masters into these university talks. Although I have limited wisdom and abilities, the talks should still be helpful to modern people. I have met many people over the years and seen them struggling with their afflictive emotions. Such afflictive emotions can, although it's not easy, be eliminated through the wisdom of the Dharma. I hope that you will not disregard my teachings. Only through learning and practicing the Dharma over a very long period of time can our diluted thoughts be gradually reduced and eventually eradicated. Please don't think that because Dharma teachings are somewhat commonplace and easily available nowadays, we can take them for granted. Conscious of every opportunity of giving Dharma teaching, when I present a lecture, I try my best to prepare fully beforehand. For example, in preparation for this teaching, I spent a lot of time reading through the related sutras in Tibetan and Chinese, such as the 100 Deeds. I feel this effort is necessary since so many of you have given up your time to listen to my teaching, and the time is very precious. Roughly speaking, about the 16 arhats and brushing over the key points is not a responsible attitude. To every one of us, time is synonymous with life. If I don't treat this lectures seriously, I'm being irresponsible with everyone's time, given how seriously I take these teachings. If you don't pay attention, then you have failed in your responsibility as a student. I genuinely believe that attending even just a single Dharma teaching is a rare and precious opportunity. It's not easy for me to give a lecture either. If we both play our parts and study together diligently, Even though we might be ordinary beings, the merit this will generate is tremendous. The Buddha himself emphasized this point. Therefore, it's very important for you to listen to lectures and study the Dharma conscientiously. Let's continue with the fifth verse. The verse states, "We pay homage to the elder Vajraputra, who dwells in the land of Sri Lanka, surrounded by 1,000 great arhats, and holds a fly whisk while making the gesture of threatening. Grant your blessings so that the life of the teacher may be secure and the teachings may flourish and spread." The footnotes of the handouts that I gave everyone mark the slight difference in this verse according to different sources. When I was translating this text, I looked at other related sources and marked the differences with footnotes. Although there are minor differences between different sources, the text is mostly the same. Some people are talking. When you speak while listening to the teaching, you will disturb others. The first line states, "We pay homage to the elder called Vajraputra," or Dojimobul in Tibetan. Next line states, "He dwells in the land of Sri Lanka, surrounded by 1,000 great arhats, and holds a fly whisk while making the threatening gesture." Vajraputra means son of Vajra. When we pray to the 16 arhats, each of them has their own life stories and different miraculous powers and blessings. It's like how every ordinary person has different specialties and strength. Among Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Manjushri grants exceptional blessings of wisdom. Avalokiteshvara grants a blessing of compassion. Mahatmaprapta grants a blessing of power to liberate beings. In the same way, each arhat has a different specialty as shown by their different hand gestures and different symbols that they hold. Vajraputra makes a threatening gesture, like Padmasambhava sometimes does. If we pray regularly to Vajraputra or other deities who make this gesture, then all hindrances from Maras, non-humans, and destructive emotions can be dispelled through the power of these noble beings. To sum up, Vajraputra has numerous excellent rituals, qualities, and great power of blessing. If we pray to him, he will grant his blessings so that the life of the teacher will be secure and the teachings will flourish and spread. Some of you can become great masters in the future when you have your own temple or authority. I hope all of you can try to get the monastics and lay followers to recite homage and offering to the 16 arhats. This prayer is continuously recited during the annual summer retreat in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition around 1986. I was invited to a monastery in Barkham to give Dharma teachings during their summer retreats. While I was waiting for a ride somewhere halfway, I met a young novice monk. He was also waiting for a ride. We waited for a long time. I got a ride first and went to the monastery. And when he also went to the monastery, he realized that I was to be his retreat master. As the principal Dharma teacher on the retreat, I took part in the collective recitation of the prayer during the mornings, but not in the afternoons. During the afternoons, each time they recited the homage and offerings to the 16 elders, I would look down to the temple through the window in my room every time. Well, my voice is not that pleasant, but there was one particularly melodious voice that stood out from the rest. It was the voice of the young novice monk that I had met on the journey. I wonder, how is he doing now? It has been over 20 years now. But I still have a vivid memory. Tibetan Buddhist monasteries have many beautiful chants and melodies, this prayer being one of them. I hope that in the future, just like praying to the 21 Taras, monasteries in Han region will regularly recite this prayer, say on the 15th or 30th of every month, or during a Dharma assembly. Even just reciting it once or twice would be nice. Lay practitioner can do the same. Reciting it contributes to the long life of all the lineage holders and great masters, and to the flourishing of the Dharma. Many students often say to their gurus, "Oh, please, Rinpoche, remain long in this world and always turn the Dharma well." Well, the surest way to supplicate a great master to live long in this world and always turn the Dharma well is to recite this prayer on a regular basis. The life story of Vajraputra is recorded in several sutras, including the 100 Deeds, in which it's called the story of Sarana. During that time, the Buddha was in Rajriha. King Pradyota and King Udayana would often wage war against each other. In both countries, Kalyanaputra was a well-acknowledged master. Around that time, Venerable Kalyanaputra attended arhathood after having eliminated all his destructive emotions. He then started to travel to different places to teach people the Dharma in order to repay the Buddha's kindness. He first traveled to the city where King Pradyota reigned and encouraged the king to take the refuge vow. Later, Udayana king also took refuge with him when he traveled to his city. Thus, he became the teacher of both kings. One day, King Udayana's queen gave birth to a son, and he was named Sarana. When Sarana grew up, he gained mastery over all fields of worldly knowledge and also studied with Kalyanaputra. He generated faith in the three rules and took the refuge vow from Kalyanaputra. As time passed by, Sarana observed that his father committed both wholesome and unwholesome deeds as a king. Sometimes he made offerings and gave money to the needy, but many times he committed negative actions like fighting wars. This made Sarana reluctant to become a king in the future. He thought, when my father passes away, I'll be the next in line to the throne. Once I become king, if I act like my father, I will also commit many negative acts alongside some occasional virtuous ones. It would be better for me to become a monk and follow the Buddha's teachings so that I can eliminate all my sufferings. Having resolved to abandon worldly life, he requested his parents' permission. His parents weren't like some parents nowadays who are extremely stubborn. A while ago, the mother of a monastic student here called me. She kept crying and said, I can't understand it no matter what. Other people's children come back home during the New Year. Why can't I see my child? My life is over. There is no hope. Why the fate is so unfair to me? Why I need to experience such misfortune? While in Tibetan households, they feel extremely happy if one of their family members becomes a monastic. They feel so proud that they would tell everyone about it. If a monastic disrobes, then they feel ashamed and don't even mention it to others. But in Han region, parents feel ashamed if their children become monastics. They would ask their children to put on layperson's outfits and wear a wig to attend family gatherings. Well, this is due to improper notions they have about Buddhism, which we can understand. Back to the story with his parents' consent. Sarana received ordination from and studied with Kadayanaputra. One time, Sarana went out begging for alms and somehow lost his way. He arrived by chance at King Pradyota's palace. Perhaps the guards had fallen asleep during their shift. He entered the palace without being noticed by the guards at the gate. Sarana then met the king's consorts. He was a handsome and noble-looking young man, so the consorts were overjoyed. They gathered around, requested that he teach them the Dharma. With every good intention, Sarana then taught Dharma to them. During this process, King Pradyota came to see his consorts, but they didn't stand up to greet him, like what they did in the past. The king wondered, why do my consorts not receive me properly? They used to be so respectful towards me. What made them like this? As the king came closer, he saw the handsome young monk who was sitting in the middle of the consorts. The king became furious and thought this would be okay if he were an enlightened being, but if he's not, he will still be influenced by his desires. So he asked Sarana a series of questions, whether he had attained the results of Arhat and then returned and all the way down to the first dhyana level. Sarana replied no to all the questions. The king thought to himself, how dare he come to the palace and give the teachings to my consorts if he hasn't attained any result whatsoever. Then he took out a long whip and lashed Sarana so violently that he almost fainted. Well, it's a good thing today that in most places, law enforcement agencies make investigations first before any punishment. Otherwise, if a person is beaten straight after being arrested without any proper investigation, as happened to Sarana, the karmic consequences for the officials would be very severe. Back to the story. Sarana became extremely angry at the cure treatment that he received from the king. When he returned to the place of Kalyanaputra, he said to the teacher, I was severely beaten by the cruel king, Pariyutta, for no reason at all. I just happened to enter his palace by accident, and his consorts requested me to give them teaching. So that's what I did. My intention was utterly pure, but that cruel king viciously beat me when he found out. I would like to request your permission to give up my vows. I want to go back to my parents' home and prepare for divisions of my father's army to take my revenge on the king. Kalyanaputra replied, you must not fall under the sway of anger. As a monastic, you should forsake the 8 worldly concerns and practice patience. Kalyanaputra tried to dissuade Sarana, but to no avail. Finally, Kalyanaputra told Sarana, I can see that you really want to go, but since it's almost dark now, there might be dangerous beasts lurking out there. You've been through a lot today and wouldn't want anything further bad to happen to you at night. Why not stay here for the night and leave the next morning? Sarana agreed. While Sarana was sleeping, Kalyanaputra blessed him so that he had a dream. In his dream, he gave up his precepts, returned to his father's home, ascended to the throne, and then led the 4 divisions of the army to wage war against King Pariyutta. But he was defeated in the battle, captured by the king's army, and then sent to be executed. As he was being brought to the place of execution, he saw Kalyanaputra begging for alms in the city. He shouted, Venerable One, please save me. When he was doing that, he awoke from the dream, still feeling terrified. Kalyanaputra told him it was merely a dream. Sarana felt relieved, but started to think what a great crime he would have committed had he relinquished all his precepts and executed his revenge plans. He said to Kalyanaputra, I was so wrong not listening to you. I will neither give up my precepts nor take revenge on the king. Then Kalyanaputra began to guide him with Dharma teachings. Because of his strong renunciation that he gave rise to, his anger was pacified along with all his other afflictive emotions, and he eventually attended arhathood. Later, King Pariyutta heard that the bhikkhu that he had lashed was the son of King Udayana. Feeling enormous regrets, he came before Sarana to beg for his forgiveness. The bhikkhu then asked the Buddha, Venerable Teacher, what caused Sarana to be beaten like this? Why can he become a monastic and attain arhathood? The Buddha then told the bhikkhus the following story. A very long time ago, King Brahmadatta and his consorts went to the gardens where the king fell asleep. As he was sleeping, his consorts received a teaching from Pradikta Buddha. When the king saw what happened, he became extremely angry. So he took out a whip and fairly lashed the Pradikta Buddha. Then the Pradikta Buddha rose into the sky and displayed various miraculous powers in front of him. Witnessing this, the king felt a great sense of remorse and repented sincerely. He made offerings to the Pradikta Buddha during his lifetime and after his nirvana. And he made the aspiration, may I not experience the retribution of having harmed such a pure being. May I meet a qualified teacher and attain arhathood. King Brahmadatta was Sarana. Although the king prayed not to experience the results of his violent act, nevertheless, when the karma had ripened, he experienced his own body being beaten by King Pradyutta. It's the same with our own experiences too. When we study the 100 deeds, we seem to be acceptable with respect to any harsh words, injustice, or harm from others. It's a pity that for most of us, except a few good practitioners, this understanding faded over time. From this story, we can see that although Sarana or Vajraputra seemed to have done nothing wrong in that lifetime, he was lashed by King Pradyutta due to his misdeeds in one of his past lives. Sarana was actually the older Vajraputra in our lives. If other people scold us, insult us, or seize our property for seemingly no reason, we'll probably think this is totally unjustified. In fact, this is merely the result of negative actions that we have accumulated or committed in our past lives. Buddhists who understand this will more readily accept things in their life as unavoidable consequences of the reddening effect of their past karma. Sometimes when people fight, they will say, I haven't done anything wrong to you, yet you still treat me like this. It must be because what I did to you in my past life. Well, they don't even actually believe in the karma, but they speak as if they do when they quarrel, since they have no other explanation for what's happening right now. So they would say things like, I will just repay what I have owed you in my past life. Well, whether we believe it or not, the karmic law of cause and effects is the truth. So in this story, the elder Vajraputra attained arhathood under the guidance of Kalyanaputra. The Buddha also explained that he made offerings to Pradikta Buddha in his past life and vowed to attain arhathood. We should pray to Vajraputra as he has numerous qualities. Unlike an ordinary person who becomes famous by merely studying a few years, noble beings attain their fruition through continual practice over numerous lifetimes. Therefore, praying to him so that the life of the teacher may be secure and the teachings may flourish and spread. that the sixth verse states, "We pay homage to the noble elder Shubhadra, who dwells on an island in the Yamuna River, surrounded by 1,200 arhats, and makes the gesture of teaching the Dharma and equanimity. Grant your blessings so that the life of the teaching teacher may be secure and the teachings may flourish and spread." Can you see his pictures clearly?
清楚吧？清楚吗？不说话，不说就不说啊。那么就是说这个巴陀罗尊者啊，刚才那个金刚字呢，就是还有在中阿含
Actually, regarding Vajraputra, the Madhyama Gama records a story. I'll tell it before we move on to the next elder. On one occasion, Ananda was giving Dharma teaching to a large group of people. The elder Vajraputra, who had already attended arhathood by then, was among the assembly. He wondered whether or not Ananda had also attended arhathood and found out that he hadn't. Therefore, Vajraputra said to Ananda that although it was good he gave Dharma teaching to others, it would be preferable if he first attended realization by meditating in solitude. By the way, this occurred after the Buddha's parinirvana, and the accounts vary about how Ananda attended arhathood. In this story, after receiving the instruction from Vajraputra, Ananda went to a solitary place to meditate, and through his diligent practice, later he attended arhathood. Back to this verse. On the noble elder Sribhadra, he is called Zangpo in Tibetan, which means good or virtuous. Next line states he dwells on an island in the Yamuna River. With some arhats, it's easy to locate where they live geographically. But for others, it's much more difficult. Next line states, he is surrounded by 1,200 arhats and makes the gesture of teaching the Dharma and equanimity. In the past, many great Tibetan masters would make the gesture of equanimity with the left hand and the gesture of teaching the Dharma with the right hand before they began their teaching. The Buddha himself made such gesture when he taught the Dharma at Sarnath. You will see many statues of the Buddha Shakyamuni making this gesture in Sarnath, India. The gesture of equanimity represents meditative concentration and helps the mind to settle, while the Dharma teaching mudra represents wisdom and the skillful means and helps to eliminate ignorance. Therefore, seeing his image or praying to Sribhadra will help to remove obstacles to our meditative concentration and to eliminate the root affliction of ignorance, thereby enabling us to obtain wisdom, compassion, samadhi, and so forth. So we should pray to Sribhadra to grant his blessings so that the life of the teacher may be secure and the teachings may flourish and spread. Whether we are a lay or ordained practitioner, we need to play our part in helping the Dharma to flourish. This is the responsibility of every single Buddhist. Even if we can only help one person through the Dharma, we should do so. It's not okay if we just remain selfish and mind our own practice. Today is the first day of the Lunar New Year. I read a news report saying that around 80,000 people went to Yonghe Temple in Beijing today. Of course, it's wonderful for the temple that so many people visit in one day. In some ways, this is a sign that Buddha Dharma is flourishing. But if those Buddhists really understood the Dharma properly, eliminated their sufferings through its practice, and aspired to spread the Dharma, that would be more important. Buddhists have skillful means to accomplish the twofold benefits of ourselves and others. Some people believe that lay practitioners don't have the ability to propagate the Dharma. During a meeting, one lay volunteer said, "I used to think that propagating the Dharma was only the job of the Dharma teacher or great masters, but now I realize that is the responsibility of every single Buddhist." I repeated that for a couple of times since then, as most Buddhists today haven't realized this fact. During the holidays, in both Han and Tibetan regions, the monasteries are full of people making offerings and saying prayers. But most people does so to pray for their own or their families and friends' protection, well-being, and happiness in the coming year. Other people seem to be beyond their concern. Buddhist teachings are extremely vast and all-inclusive. But to be honest, the mentality of most Buddhists is not in line with the teaching. We should all think about this. A while ago, I came across a book about a world-renowned person. He was born without arms and legs. But he still managed to travel all around the world to give talks and to inspire people. He is a Christian. Many Christians believe that his devout faith and courage must have been a gift from the God. He also thinks that he is divinely blessed. In contrast, many Buddhists, even if they have all four limbs intact, lack confidence and shy away from teaching the Dharma. They believe that this is the job of the great Dharma teachers. When it comes to talking about other people's faults, however, they're not so shy to speak out. Actually, everyone should have the responsibility of propagating the Dharma. The truth is, there are a great many people in the Han region today who are interested in spirituality, and this has led to a huge growth in the spiritual market. Other religions have recognized this fact. There have been arguments between countries about there are certain markets being targeted by another country. I'm not sure whether this is true, but some religions have capitalized on people's interest in spirituality to promote their own religion. If Buddhists don't propagate the Dharma right now, it might become too late in the future. As much as our personal practice is important, we should also try to inspire others with Dharma. Since today is the first day of the new year, it's a good time for all of us to make a resolution to benefit other people in the coming year. You should say to yourself, for example, this year I shall guide at least one person onto the path of Dharma. Although I cannot make the person become an arhat, at least I can encourage them to take refuge and study study the Dharma. If this is beyond your capacity, you can still resolve, I should try to inspire one person to read a book about Buddhism. That way, even if that person hasn't taken refuge, he or she will at least gain a new understanding of Buddhism. That will be my responsibility for the year. If we all made such resolutions, it would really make a difference.
对，我刚才就是讲到有一个尊者啊，就是这个尊者呢，我们这个下面就是
I was talking about the life story of Shibhadra, right?
巴陀罗尊者呢，实际上是
Shibhadra.
对，巴陀罗尊者是，他是。在这个释迦牟尼佛的这个父王，这个金梵王，就是金梵王那个时候呢，有一个跟他就是
born during King Suddhodana's reign. King Suddhodana, the father of Buddha Shakyamuni, had a charioteer who was about the same age as him. He was called Subhadra, which means extremely good. He is
榆树啊，就是榆树。然后呢，就是这个叫绕桑啊，就绕桑。那么绕桑的话呢，就是经常是这个，不管是这个金梵王到哪里这个出门的话呢，就是他是经常是给他就是驾驶马车。
His duty was to drive the horse-drawn chariot that the king rode in wherever he went. In ancient times, driving a chariot was a skilled job. If the charioteer was not skilled, the passenger would have a very uncomfortable time. Chariot driving is also one of the 6 arts spoken of the Confucian education system. It's said to be much more difficult than driving a car. Returning to the story, it was always Subhadra's wish that after he got married, he would have a child. Subhadra prayed continuously to various worldly deities, but his wife could not get pregnant. He felt devastated. One day, King Suddhodana's wife gave birth to Prince Siddhartha and received auspicious prophecies about the child. When he heard about this news, Subhadra became even more eager to have a son, so that he could become charioteer to the prince. Later, Prince Siddhartha abandoned worldly life and eventually attained Buddhahood. When he came back to his hometown to teach the Dharma, Subhadra thought to himself, I should use my wealth to make offerings to Buddha Shakyamuni and his disciple. If I die without a son, then everything that I own will become the property of the king. Then he did so. As he had great faith in the Buddha, he said, Venerable teacher, I have always wanted to have a son. If I have a son, I will offer him to you as an attendant and let him serve you. Through observation, the Buddha knew that Subhadra would have a son who would grow up to become a noble elder. So the Buddha replied, if you do indeed have a child, you should remember to keep your promise. Subhadra then said, of course, I always wanted the son to be your charioteer. I would keep my promise. After some time, Subhadra's wife finally became pregnant and gave birth to a beautiful, noble-looking boy. Over time, the child grew up. One day, the Buddha saw that the time had come for the young man to abandon worldly life. So he went to remind Subhadra of his promise. Subhadra reminded his pledge and without hesitation gladly presented the child to the Buddha. The Buddha then took the young man to a monastery, ordained him, and instructed him in the Dharma. After receiving many teachings from the Buddha, he practiced diligently and attended arhathood. This is the story of how elder Sribhadra was born and attended arhathood. Oh, I forgot to mention how Sribhadra got his name. When he was born, his father named him Bhadra, which derives from part of his own name, Subhadra. Bhadra was to become the arhat that we know today as Sribhadra. After Sribhadra attended arhathood within a very short time, he gave teachings to his parents, who attended the result of stream enter. The parents then gave away all their wealth and took ordination. Through diligent practice, they also attended arhathood. When asked how it was that all three of them had attended arhathood, the Buddha said, when the human lifespan was 40,000 years, Kakusanda Buddha appeared in this world. After this Buddha passed into Parinirvana, the king put a minister in charge of building a stupa. The minister then asked his son to do so on his behalf. During this process, the son developed strong faith in the Buddha and helped the parents to generate faith too. Then the three of them made offering into the three jewels in front of the stupa. By the power of these aspirations, all three of them attended arhathood in this lifetime. The one who was the minister's son is now the elder Sribhadra, and the minister and the wife are now his parents. We should pray to the noble beings who attended arhathood in front of the Buddha Shakyamuni, as they are endowed with the inconceivable virtuous qualities and powers. Although we cannot see them with our naked eyes, we shouldn't deny their existence and powers of blessing, as we can't see particles or worldly ghosts and spirits either. We can't deny their existence just because we can't see them. Based on these reliable sutras and shastras, we can gradually generate faith, then arouse true conviction, and irreversible faith in the Dharma teaching. To sum up, as long as we continue studying, we can strengthen our faith, increase our wisdom, and extend our compassion to all beings. We'll go over one more verse today. Next verse states, we pray homage to the noble elder Kanakavasa, who dwells in the supreme land of Kashmir, surrounded by 500 great arhats, and holds a jewel chain. Grant your blessings so that the life of the teachers may be secure and the teachings may flourish and spread. The noble elder Kanakavasa dwells in the supreme land of Kashmir. He is surrounded by 500 great arhats and holds the jewel chain. The jewel chain symbolizes the binding of one's destructive emotions, ignorance, and self-grasping, so that wisdom can continually increase. We pray to him so that the life of the teacher may be secure and the teachings may flourish and spread. The life story of elder Kanakavasa is recorded in the Sutra of the Wise and Foolish. During the time of the Buddha, a child was born into the family of an elder in Magadha. He was an exceptional, handsome young boy. At the same time, a baby elephant also appeared in the elder's treasury. The elephant was in gold. To everyone's amazement, whenever the elephant relieved itself, it would only shed pure gold. Due to this boy's merit, the elephant accompanied the boy wherever he went. As the boy grew up, the elephant also grew alongside him. Once, the boy was playing with 500 sons of some other wealthy elders. So they began to boast of all their wonderful things in their home. One boy said, "The beds and seats in my home are all made of 7 treasures." Another said, "My house and garden are made of 7 treasures." Still another said, "My treasury in my house is always full of 7 treasures." When I come to his turn, the boy talked about his elephant because he was born with an elephant. The boy was called protected by an elephant. He said, "I have a golden elephant at home that was born at the same time as me. When he goes to toilet, he only sheds pure gold. Among the children was the son of King Bindusara, Ajatashattu." When he heard this, he wanted the elephant for himself and thought, "When I become the king, I will take the elephant away from him." Later, when Ajatashattu ascended to the throne, he summoned the boy to come to the palace accompanied by his elephant. The father of protected by an elephant told him, "King Ajatashattu killed his own father. He won't hesitate to kill others. He must be summoning you to the palace because he wants your elephant." The boy replied, "Because of my merits, no one is able to take my elephant away from me." And he rode to the palace as requested. There he was greeted by the king with food and drink. When he was about to leave, the king told him to leave the elephant behind in the palace. Protected by an elephant agreed and left on foot without the elephant. However, soon afterwards, the elephant vanished into the ground and reappeared beside him outside the palace grounds. Later, he reflected, "King Ajatashattu doesn't follow the Dharma. He will surely harm me for my elephant. Since the Buddha is now living among us, I should abandon the worldly life and become a monastic under his guidance." With the consent of his parents, he begged the Buddha for ordination. As the Buddha said, "Come, bhikkhu," he became a monk. After hearing the Buddha's teaching on the Four Noble Truths, he attended Arhathood. There was a problem, though, since the golden elephant still followed him wherever he went. The other bhikkhus found it impossible to meditate in the woods. As long as protected by an elephant stayed in the Sangha, the elephant stayed with them too. And wherever the elephant went, people from the city would come to see it. And there were a lot of people there. So the bhikkhus complained to the Buddha about the disturbance that the elephant was causing. The Buddha then told protected by an elephant, "Since this elephant is creating problems for the Sangha, you must ask it to leave now." Protected by an elephant said, "I have tried to do so, but it won't leave me." The Buddha said, "You should tell it I have now put an end to the cycle of birth and death, and no longer have need of you. Say that 3 times, and the elephant will disappear. He did so accordingly, and the elephant disappeared into the ground.
那么以这样的这种因缘呢，就是后来就是众比丘问的时候啊。
When the other monks witnessed this, they asked the Buddha, "What positive karma did protected by an elephant crate in his past lives to bear such fruits?" The Buddha told them about his past life during the age of the human span was around 20,000 years. At that time, Kassapa Buddha appeared in this world. After Kassapa Buddha passed into Parinirvana, many stupas were built for his relics. Within one of those stupas, there was the image of an elephant, which had been the vehicle of Kassapa Buddha. It sustained minor damage over time. One day, a man was circumambulating the stupa and noticed the damage. So he repaired it with the clay and painted it with gold. He then made the aspiration, saying, "In all my future lives, may I be reborn in a high caste family and possess limitless wealth." As a result, in all his future lives, he was born in a high caste family and was accompanied by a golden elephant. As we can see from this story, it's very important to accumulate merit, even though it might be difficult for us to find a realized being that we can make offerings to, like a Buddha or an Arhat. We can always make offerings to a stupa or statue of the Buddha. If we see a small broken stupa, repair it, and then dedicate the merit, we will definitely obtain virtuous results in the future. In both China and Western countries today, there are people who become rich almost overnight. Whenever I hear such people talk about how they used to be poor but suddenly become rich, my conviction in the law of karma deepens. So we should perform even slight virtual acts directed towards a statue or a stupa, as the karma will ripen into great results in the future. There is also a record of Master Uda's encounter with Kanakavasa. It seems that it appears that we don't have enough time to cover this story. We'll do it next session. I might have mentioned this encounter in another lecture before. As a result of that encounter, Master Uda wrote the Water Repentance Liturgy, which is well known in Han region. We will talk about it in the next lecture. Let's stop here for today.
Zhi bun cu nen zhu wa zhu xiu